if you were working with an executive who wants you to make the move to private equity, where would you begin to strategically engineer their search? What are some of the building blocks early on in that process that you would want to ensure that that person was doing first?
Well, interestingly enough, a lot of people, the first thing on their mind, knowing full well that most people do get in through, network or agency, or, it's not going to be, like a posting necessarily. They'll say, I just need the introductions. And the flaw in that thought process is it's not just the introductions. The majority of people that I've seen fail at their networking strategies and their outreach strategies and their efforts to try to get in the door somewhere. It wasn't because they didn't get the introduction. It was because the introduction didn't really go anywhere. So where I usually start is we do have to get to a very authentic core of what is your true unique value proposition.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get into private equity because it now seems like some new shiny object that, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun. We have to make sure that there's a true value proposition case behind it, that your whole entire background tells a story. Like when Rich and Chelsea were talking about making sure that you have your metrics and making sure that you have your numbers and you can talk to the outcomes that you've produced and how these outcomes lead you to be a certain solution for a certain situation. You can't just put that suit on for that conversation. That has to be authentically who you are. And then to Chelsea's point, you want to target the right arenas. Like the industry match is a great example. But there's three bubbles that we have to look at first. What is your highest and best use case? Number one. What is your competitive differentiation, and what it is that you really want to do? And where those three intersect, we can then start to communicate that value proposition. You'll need it in your resume if you're going to be submitting it, like we talked about. You'll need it in the conversation if you get that networking, if you do get that introduction. Those are perfect examples of failure points to communicate your value proposition that most people don't think of because they rush straight into the introduction or the clicks of it.
Yeah, and I think you also have to think about the functional area. One of the questions was around, I'm a CIO and PE firms don't really seem too interested. And, from my perspective, my at first blush, I would say, you've got to think about what the PE firm is looking for. They are looking to move quickly with the least amount of resources and get the most value from the company. And that's the nature of the game. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to invest in the right resources, but it's not a 20-year strategy. So I think, like from an IT perspective as a CIO, I mean, you can't look at it as a 20-year horizon. It's a much shorter horizon, and thinking in those terms, how the funds think about it.
Could add to that specifically with some of the functions. You have to think about what their value creation plan is. So every sponsor does a deal with an idea on how they're going to make money on that deal. And they're really going to invest in the categories that they think they're going to make money on. So if they feel like IT isn't a strategic differentiator for them in the next 3 to 5 years, they're unlikely to make a significant investment there. On the other side of the equation, if they're a corporate carve out, as an example, where there's never even been an IT department, that's something that they have to build from scratch. Putting IT in place, putting HR in place, the finance functions, those are all going to be very important and very early in the transaction process. So looking at sponsors that map to your industry expertise, your functional expertise is an important part of it too. Not every sponsor is going to go and put a CTO into every portfolio company. They almost always will put a CFO in because it's just one of those things that happens. And again, they're finance folks and they like finance. But understanding who's doing a lot of corporate carve-outs, who's doing a lot of businesses that the value creation is going to be driven by the technology platform is a differentiator for you. And that's where you should put your time and energy.
And you're seeing a lot of roll-ups too. Roll-ups, just adding on companies of similar industries, and we've seen that with a number of our clients. And in that case, that would be someone. Let's say that they would need more resources to create some shared services that weren't there before, as they create pull in 2, 3, 4 different companies of the same type of sector.